Welcome back to the Beginner English Podcast. Today we will talk about renting an apartment. Renting an apartment is a common choice, especially when you're starting a new job, going to university, or moving to a new city. In this episode, I'll share a story about me renting an apartment for the first time. I'll also introduce some new words: lease, utilities, furnished, landlord, tenant, rent, and eviction. I will explain each word and use it in a sentence. Please answer the questions I will ask in the comments. And don't forget to read what other people wrote as well. This will help you learn faster. When I rented my first apartment, I was excited, but also nervous. I didn't know much about the process, and I had to learn many new things. A lease is a legal contract between the person renting the apartment, the tenant, and the person who owns the apartment, the landlord. The lease has important information, like how long you can stay and how much you will pay each month. For example, when I rented my first apartment, I had to sign a lease for 1 year. This meant I promised to live in the apartment and pay rent for 12 months. Have you ever signed a lease? Utilities are things like electricity, water, gas, and internet. Sometimes utilities are included in the rent. Other times you have to pay for them separately. When I moved into my apartment, I had to call the electric company and set up my utility account. It was my responsibility to pay for the electricity I used. An apartment that is furnished has furniture in it, like a bed, sofa, table, and chairs. An unfurnished apartment is empty, and you need to bring your own furniture. My first apartment was unfurnished, so I had to buy a bed and some chairs. It was a lot of work, but it was also fun to choose my own furniture. Do you prefer a furnished or unfurnished apartment? The landlord is a person who owns the apartment or a building if they are very wealthy, and they are responsible for taking care of the property and fixing things when they break. My landlord was very kind. When my kitchen sink stopped working, I called him and he sent a plumber to fix it the next day. As a tenant, I had to follow the rules in the lease. For example, I couldn't have loud parties and I could I couldn't paint the walls without asking my landlord. Rent is the money you pay every month to live in the apartment. The amount of rent depends on the size of the apartment, its location, and other factors. For my first apartment, I paid $800 a month in rent. It was a small apartment, but it was perfect for me. Sometimes you can get evicted from the apartment. Luckily, it never happened to me. Eviction happens when a tenant has to leave the apartment, usually because they didn't pay the rent or broke the rules in the lease. Today, we learned 7 important words: lease, utilities, furnished, landlord, tenant, rent, and eviction. I hope my story helped you understand these words better. Now, I want to hear from you. Answer the questions in the comments and read what others have written. This will help you improve your English and learn about different experiences. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Keep practicing, and I'll see you next time.